Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel where we break down big ideas to make them fun, clear, and useful. Today, we're diving into The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. This book has helped millions shift their attention from the constant chatter of their thoughts to the peace that's always right here in the present. If you're someone who feels stuck in a loop of past regrets and future anxieties, then this book and today's video are for you. So, what's the power of now all about? Tolle explains that much of our suffering comes from mentally living outside the present. We're constantly focused on what could happen or what went wrong, and it keeps us in a cycle of stress and dissatisfaction. But if we could just stay present, Tolle says, life would feel much lighter, simpler, and more peaceful. Let's get into how we can apply this in our lives. All right, let's start with one of Tolle's biggest ideas, escaping what he calls the prison of the mind. Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a loop, replaying the past or worrying about the future? It's like there's this 24/7 radio in your head, churning out endless thoughts, complaints, and fears. That's what Tolle means by prison of the mind. It's when your thoughts have taken over, and it feels like you can't escape them. Tolle explains that this nonstop mental noise keeps us from fully living in the present moment. Imagine your mind as a radio that's constantly on. It's playing music, news, commercials, the works. You're trying to focus, but this radio won't let up. Tolle suggests we can change the station, or even turn it off, so we're not constantly pulled into that mental noise. Think of it like being on a road trip with someone who's talking non-stop about everything. What happened last week, what they're worried about tomorrow. Meanwhile, you're missing the scenery. The idea here is to turn down the volume on that chatter and tune into what's actually happening around you. Life becomes so much more peaceful when we're not caught up in our thoughts all the time. In short, Tolle says we're not our thoughts. We're the awareness behind them. This shift can help us start seeing thoughts as clouds passing by. Instead of getting lost in worry or regret, we can simply notice our thoughts without letting them take over. It's a liberating feeling when you realize you don't have to react to every single thought that pops up. Next, let's talk about the pain body, one of Tolle's unique concepts. Imagine you're carrying around a backpack that's loaded with rocks, each one representing unresolved pain, anger, or regret. Every time you think about a past hurt or stress, it's like adding another rock to this backpack. Pretty soon, it's heavy, uncomfortable, and affects everything you do. Tolle describes the pain body as a kind of energy field made of all our accumulated pain. And here's the thing, it actually loves to feed on more pain. So if you're feeling frustrated or hurt, the pain body is thrilled. It wants you to stew in negative thoughts and dwell on past hurts because it thrives on those emotions. Imagine your pain body as a stray cat that shows up every time you put food out. The more you feed it, the stronger it gets, and soon enough, it's bringing its friends, anxiety, anger, and self-doubt. But if you stop feeding it, it eventually stops showing up at your door. So how do we stop feeding the pain body? Tolle says it starts with awareness. Notice when the pain body is active, when you're feeling overly sensitive or reactive. Instead of adding fuel to it, acknowledge it without judgment. It's like seeing a rainstorm and deciding not to go outside. Let it pass without standing in the rain. Here's a humorous way to think about it. Imagine your pain body as an uninvited guest who loves to complain. Every time they show up, instead of engaging with them, just nod politely, then focus on something else. When we stop indulging our negative emotions, the pain body loses its grip on us, and life feels lighter. Tolle talks a lot about letting go of psychological time, which means focusing less on the past and future. He explains that we often get stuck in these two places, replaying past events or worrying about the future, rather than experiencing the present. It's like being a mental time traveler, always visiting other times instead of enjoying what's right in front of us. Tolle says the past and future only exist in our minds. They're not real in this moment. Think about that for a second. Imagine you're watching a movie, but instead of enjoying the scene that's unfolding right in front of you, you keep rewinding to catch something you missed or fast-forwarding to see what happens next. You're missing the entire plot because you're not engaged in the present moment. The same happens when we get caught up in our thoughts about the past or the future. We become so preoccupied with what was or what could be that we miss the richness of what is. Here's a funny way to think of it. Imagine you're on a date at a fancy restaurant trying to enjoy a meal with someone, but instead of being present with them, you're scrolling through your phone, checking past messages, or planning tomorrow's activities. You're physically there, but your attention is somewhere else. It's a little ridiculous, right? And that's exactly what Tolle's message is about. Putting down the distractions, whether they're from the past, the future, or our devices, and actually engaging with the person or moment that's right in front of us. It's about connecting with what's happening now, rather than getting lost in thought loops. Living in the now doesn't mean we're ignoring the past or disregarding the future. It just means we don't let them dominate our minds. We don't have to stop planning for tomorrow or reflecting on the lessons of the past. But when we focus on the present, we stop living in autopilot mode. We start to feel more at peace, more grounded. After all, the present is the only time we can truly act, make decisions, and experience life. So why not make the most of it? One of Tolle's most powerful techniques is what he calls becoming the watcher. This means stepping back from our thoughts and emotions and observing them without becoming entangled in them. Think of it like being in the stands at a sports game. You're watching the players run around, but you're not out there on the field with them. The watcher doesn't get involved in the game. It just observes with curiosity and calm. Imagine your thoughts are like waves on the ocean. If you're out on a surfboard, you're riding the waves, getting tossed around with every rise and fall. But if you stand on the shore, you can watch the waves from a distance, unaffected by each one. That's what it means to be the watcher, to notice your thoughts without being swept up by them. You still experience the waves, but you don't let them control you. When we practice being the watcher, we create a healthy distance between ourselves and our thoughts. This space gives us the freedom to respond rather than react. It's like turning down the volume on a loud TV. You're still aware of what's happening, but it no longer controls your emotions or your state of mind. You have the power to choose how you engage with the world around you. Let's dive a little deeper into the core idea of living in the present moment, or what Tolle calls presence. True power, he says, comes from fully inhabiting the now. Imagine an animal, like a cat or a dog. They don't waste their time regretting last week's meal or worrying about next week's walk. They're completely in the moment, enjoying the simple pleasures of life as they unfold. There's no mental chatter. They don't need to analyze or plan. They just are. Think of presence like standing at the peak of a mountain, looking out over a breathtaking 360-degree view. You see everything clearly and without distraction. You're not caught up in the details of one tree or one rock. You can take it all in its entirety. In the same way, presence allows us to experience life as it is, without overthinking or labeling things. Instead of getting lost in a swirl of what-ifs or should-haves, we can savor what's happening right now. Imagine you're at a concert with a friend who's texting the whole time and checking their watch every few minutes. You're both at the same event, but one of you is missing the music, the energy, the vibe of the moment. Living in the now is like putting down your phone, letting go of distractions, and fully immersing yourself in the experience. It's amazing how much richer life becomes when you're actually there to experience it. You're no longer just going through the motions. You're living in the moment. Tolle encourages us to bring mindfulness into everything we do, not just during meditation or in quiet, peaceful moments. This idea is a powerful reminder that we don't need to wait for special circumstances to practice being present. Every moment, no matter how small, holds the potential for mindfulness. Think of it like building a muscle for the present. The more you practice, the stronger your ability to stay present becomes. It's not about trying to be mindful only when things are calm or serene, but about bringing that awareness into the rhythm of everyday life. Even in the most ordinary tasks, like washing dishes, folding laundry, or walking to your car, you can practice mindfulness. When you wash the dishes, pay attention to the warmth of the water as it touches your hands, the sound of the bubbles popping, the smoothness of the plate as you scrub it. Notice how each motion feels, how the water feels as it runs over your skin, how the soap smells, how the plate fits in your hand. These simple, repetitive actions become an opportunity to ground yourself in the moment, to really experience what's happening right now, without rushing through it or getting lost in your thoughts. Stuck in traffic? Instead of giving into frustration or stress, take a deep breath and notice the world around you. Look at the colors of the cars, the shifting patterns of the sky, the rhythm of the raindrops as they tap against your window, or the trees swaying gently as you pass by. Even in a moment that might feel boring or frustrating, you can find something to appreciate, something to focus on. This doesn't mean ignoring the challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about accepting where you are and being fully present with it, whatever it is. These little moments, when we pay attention to them, help train our minds to stay present throughout the day. It's not about making every moment a perfect experience. It's about bringing our attention to the here and now, and doing so with a sense of curiosity and openness. And over time, as we practice being mindful in these everyday moments, that muscle for presence grows stronger. It becomes easier to stay grounded in the moment, even when life gets busy or overwhelming. The more we practice mindfulness in our daily lives, the more naturally it becomes to live in the now. It's like training for a marathon. You start by taking small steps, but with consistent practice, it becomes second nature. Eventually, you find yourself living more in the present moment, reacting less to stress and distractions, and enjoying a deeper sense of peace. The beauty of this practice is that it's always available, always accessible, no special conditions required. All we need to do is choose to show up for the present moment, over and over again. Here's a funny analogy. Imagine your mind is like a toddler at a grocery store, constantly distracted, grabbing at things, and veering off course. Every few seconds, it shifts its attention to something else, whether it's a shiny package on the shelf or the sound of a nearby person's voice. It's all over the place, right? And just like a toddler, your mind can be hard to control. Now, practicing mindfulness is like gently guiding that toddler back. Instead of scolding or feeling frustrated with the wandering mind, you calmly bring it back to focus, just like you would guide a toddler back to the cart, teaching it to stay focused on one thing at a time. The more you practice, the better you get at it. Over time, you'll find your mind can stay on track a little longer without veering off into distractions. The beauty of mindfulness is that when you bring it into your everyday tasks, even the most mundane moments become more meaningful. Life starts to feel richer, more peaceful, and more connected. For instance, when was the last time you really tasted your food? I mean, really paid attention to the texture, the temperature, the way the flavors mix and dance together on your tongue? Mindfulness invites you to experience these simple pleasures in full color. When you stop rushing through tasks and truly focus on them, you realize how much you've been missing in your everyday moments. The sound of the wind rustling through the trees, the warmth of a cup of coffee on a cold morning, the sensation of your feet on the ground as you walk. All of these things become more vivid and real when you're present with them. It's amazing how something as simple as being fully present in a moment can make life feel so much more satisfying. You don't need to change the world around you. You just need to change how you experience it. And this brings us to a powerful concept from Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. One of the key ideas is that much of our stress and anxiety comes from living too much in our heads. We get caught up in the stories we tell ourselves about the past and the future. How many times have you replayed an argument from years ago or worried about what might happen tomorrow? The mind tends to latch onto these thoughts and keeps them spinning, even when they don't serve us. Most of the time, the present moment is actually okay, but we don't let ourselves experience it because we're busy living in the past or future. This constant mental noise is what keeps us trapped in stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. The first step to breaking free is to realize that your mind doesn't need to control you. When you recognize that you're stuck in a loop of negative thoughts or worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet, you can choose to step back and just observe it. Instead of feeding that cycle of stress, you can simply acknowledge it without getting caught up in it. It's like noticing the toddler reaching for something they shouldn't, but instead of reacting or getting frustrated, you calmly guide them away from it. It takes practice, but every time you do it, you create more space for peace. Another concept from The Power of Now is the idea of the pain body. Tolle describes the pain body as the accumulated emotional pain we carry from past experiences, often unresolved, that gets triggered in the present. When we react to situations from that place of unhealed pain, we end up feeding it with more negative energy. However, the good news is that we don't have to let that pain define us. We can choose not to react to it, not to add more fuel to the fire. And how do we do that? Through mindfulness. By bringing our awareness back to the present moment, we stop feeding the pain body. We can notice when it's there, without letting it take over, and just let it pass without adding any more emotional fuel to the fire. Finally, one of the most profound gifts of mindfulness is learning to let go of psychological time. We often live as if we are in a race against time, constantly thinking about what's next, what we have to do, or what we should have done in the past. But in reality, the only moment we truly have is this one, right now. It's in this moment that we have the power to choose how we experience our lives. So instead of dwelling on what could have been or what will be, we can simply choose to embrace the now, this very moment. And when we do, something incredible happens. Stress diminishes, life feels more manageable, and we begin to experience a deep sense of peace. The power of now teaches us that true freedom and joy are found in the present moment. By applying these ideas, we can build deeper connections, feel more peace, and enjoy life more fully. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, and subscribe for more insights made simple. See you next time.